Chair Moore, Board Member Olson, Board Member Cunningham, and Board Member Six. Vice Chair Witosh, Board Member Insua, and Board Member Watkins are absent.
Lost my little microphone holder. Okay. Let's see. So we will move forward to public comment. If anyone would like to address the board on a project not on the agenda today for up to 2 minutes, please step forward. And I also have a speaker slip from Anna Marie Gott. Come on forward. Come on down. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. One of the last times I was here, I actually mentioned to you that I had sent a letter to the city attorney and to staff about 1108 Olive Street. If you recall, 1108 Olive Street only had 3 board members that actually could vote on the item, and you had to hear that item twice because you did not have enough members to actually vote on the item. The reason I mention that is because within the 30-day time period, I sent an email with a letter attached to the city attorney and staff using that same argument to have another item reheard. That item was 101 South Canada. That item did not have or show a wall that was 5.5 feet tall. There was, yes, maybe a description on it, but the problem is that that project received design approval with insufficient number of board members. I notified the city. I asked them to rehear the meeting. In one of the last meetings, Matthew said that if that was the case, that we would rehear the meeting, but I haven't been notified about any such, hearing that's going to be taking place. We need to follow the rules for everyone. They all need to be the same. We need to follow rules that are written down. We shouldn't be making up rules that don't exist. And we really need to dot our I's and cross our T's. And I just have a question. When am I going to receive notice that that will be reheard? Because, again, I provided the written documentation within 30 days. I asked for it to be reheard. It is exactly like 1108 Olive Street. And staff said if that was the case, then the item would be reheard, but no one's contacted me. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to address the board? Seeing no one, we will close public comment.
Mr. Chair, I have a question of staff.
And move on. Yes.
Will Ms. Gott be notified when 1108 Olive Street is reheard? Will it be reheard? Two-part question.
The action that you took is voidable, not void. In this case, the applicant didn't request for the matter to be reheard by the 4 members, so unless the board was to take an action to bring it back or to request it to be brought back, it will not be brought back. The 10-day appeal period has passed.
And what was our last action on that?
This project design approval.
So we will see it at final design.
It will need to come back for final.
And presumably we can address any issues at that point in time. Is that correct? Or will we be looking at something that mistakenly got PDA?
You will be looking at something that got PDA, and you will be confined to the terms of the PDA to determine if it substantially conforms.
I'm interested in knowing how the rest of the board feels about the issue that Ms.
Well, I'm still
Gott brought up.
confused. Were there enough board members here to establish PDA?
Not by your guidelines, but because the action was taken and it hasn't been appealed, the action is their guidelines. So if the board wants to hear it, to bring it back, then we can bring it back. The applicant could possibly raise an estoppel argument. I'd have to look at it at that time if the applicant objected to it.
I think I heard at consent today that item is being appealed, that PDA is being appealed. Is that correct?
That is 1108 Olive. The 1108 Olive has been appealed to City Council. The project in question is 101 South Kenyatta.
And that is simply the issue of the height of the wall on the drawings?
I'm not sure exactly what. I don't believe that that's the crux of the issue. The crux of the issue that is raised by Ms. Scott at this time is that 3 members, or less than 4 members, voted on the motion for project design approval.
So if we have a quorum and
One of the members that voted was either not an architect or not.
So we need
Not
4
informed.
members of the board to vote on an approval according to the guidelines, so that one of which is required to be an architect. The city attorney's office has clarified, or Ms. Ostringer just clarified, that the action taken because there were fewer than 4 members voting on the action is a voidable action. It is not a void action. So the project can continue with the PDA as granted. If the project had been appealed on the grounds of it not being a valid vote within the 10-day appeal period, it could have come back for a rehearing, but that is not the case. The board can also request that the project design approval be reheard at the discretion of the board. At this time, hearing nothing to the contrary, staff will be agendizing this item when it comes back. I believe it actually is due back at the next meeting for final approval.
Okay.
So do we need to make a statement or a vote now to verify that we're okay with the PDA being?
It doesn't sound like we were required to do that. Bob, if you're in favor of calling for a vote, whether you want to
put the
hear that
matter
again.
So this matter hasn't been agendized, but I realize we're talking procedure now. So there's 2 options I think we could pursue at this time. Board members that feel it should come back, if they want to, for PDA, can email Matthew and I, and we'll take a look at that, and then I can advise whether it'll come back to you. The other option, which would be less fortunate probably for the applicant, is they come back, the project's agenda is next week, and they come back for final, and then you send it back for PDA, in which case they would have to come a second time because it wouldn't be properly agendized.
Okay.
A question.
If we understand that it's going to, that the board would like it to come back, one thing we could do is possibly agendize it for PDA and final at the same time for next week, if we have enough noticing time.
So we are not required to notice final.
I meant the
PDA.
agendas.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have plenty of time to change the agenda.
Okay.
So we could agendize it for project design and final approval if that's at the same hearing.
So Chairman, would we notify by email if we took the former course by suggesting or inviting board members to email staff that they feel it should come back for PDA? Can we notify the absent members of also that opportunity?
How about this? I don't want to get too far down the road on a particular project that's not agendized. I will send out an email tonight to all the board members about what the options are, and the board members can respond individually to me.
Thank you.
So just a reminder, no discussion via email, just respond directly to the email. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's satisfactory.
seems to me that the only reason to re-vote again is if they thought there was a vote that would overturn the previous decision.
Right. So let's,
Right. So let's not have have a discussion right now, just because the applicant doesn't have the opportunity to be here and be heard. So
so if you have a question like that, you can address it to the attorney's office and she can get back to you directly. Great. So we're now moving on to approval of the minutes for July 15th.
Second.
Under discussion.
Page 3 of 7, under item 1, 614 East Haley, under the motion number 5, move the giant birds of paradise if the required width of the side doors. So move the giant paradise birds of paradise if only if required by the.
Thank you. I was going to mention that same thing.
And then on page 5, motion, item number 3, 1260 Coast Village, under the motion item B, just to make sure, remove the decorative wrought iron gate and the opening.
So essentially eliminate the gate.
Yes.
Right. And the opening.
And then under item 4, 335 East Gutierrez, the motion number 8, consider softening the cantilevered canopies by additional detailing, by adding additional detailing.
I'd like to add one to item 3, page 5 of 7, under the motion number 6, add planting along the north elevation. I think that should say at north end of building.
Okay. Any more comments? No? Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain. So I was absent. Okay, consent calendar for July 22nd.
For the Architectural Board of Review, consent agenda, July 22nd, 2019. Project A, 1823 Grand Avenue, was given project design and final approval with comments. Item B, 201 West Mission Street, was given project design and final approval with conditions. Item C, 602 West Anapamu Street, was given final approval as submitted.
Okay. Have a motion to approve?
So move.
First, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and for July 29th.
For the Architectural Board of Review, consent agenda, July 29th. Item A, 1616 San Pasqual Street, was given final approval. Oh, my apologies. Continued 1 week with comments. And item B, 217 South Voluntario Street, was postponed 1 week at the applicant's request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So move.
First,
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion
The
carries.
attendance correct? Did you see that?
Oh, the attendance should say 6 in Cunningham, not Olson and 6.
Okay. Are there any announcements, requests by applicants, etc.?
2 announcements. Board member Watkins will not be attending today's meeting, I believe, and board member Insua is walking in right now. I was going to announce that he will be late. So
Excellent.
those are the only 2 announcements today.
Okay, any subcommittee reports? No? No one's met subcommittee? Or anything?
No new report. We're ready to present soon. I think it's going to be next month, middle of next month.
Okay.
The turnaround.
Great. All right, so that is everything. We're ready for item number 1.
And Mr. Chair, staff does have comments at the beginning of this item.
Okay, thank you. Which is review after final for the mural program. Hi there.
Hi. Thank you so much for your time today. Do I speak into this one or both?
Both, whichever you prefer.
Okay, both either. Okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tori Cutbirth, and I am the Executive Director.
Would you like to start with your comment?
Yes, if you
Oh,
don't mind,
sorry,
if
one
we could
No
just
worries.
start. Actually, 1 second.
Is that if you needed to-
Mr. Chair, board members, before you today is a request for a modification to a 2014 mural project that has been a partnership between the Santa Barbara Arts Fund and the city. Back in 2014, the entire, a larger set of mural locations came before the board for adoption, including the adoption of a program which I've provided to you as a handout. This is available in the public records for this project at the planning counter. Just to go over what the intent of the project or the program was, it was intended to be a rolling mural exhibition that the city ABR board would approve the locations and sizes of the locations at the meetings, not intended to review the content. That would be reviewed by the Santa Barbara Arts Fund. They did provide in their program series, if you'll see on the final page of the handout I gave you, there are six criteria by which they review potential art. They review each with the artists and with the property owner to ensure that the standards that this board had adopted in 2014 are met. Last time one of these projects came before you, there was some confusion and about whether it was a sign or if it was a mural. We understand that concern. That project is not back today. This is another project. This is on, as it says in the footer, on 24 East Mason. And if you review those guidelines, it does say that no advertisements or signs are allowed as part of this program. But we just wanted to say that up front about this project before it became too much of a rabbit hole. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tori.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Tori Cutbirth. I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Fund. I also want to thank everyone on ABR today for all of the awesome projects that you guys have helped us approve over the years. The Funkzone's a really great little neighborhood, and the murals down there have really added a lot to that whole area. So I want to thank everybody. So this is a new piece that we are proposing. The address is at 24 East Mason Street. This is on the beach side of the train tracks between Helena Avenue and Anacapa Street. This is where Hotel California is. And this mural would be CV's just opened a store down in the Funk Zone. And this mural would be right kind of to the left of their front entrance here. The artist is local artist DJ Javier, and he's going to be doing a very simple but really beautiful and elegant ocean wave and a yellow sun, and Wish You Were Here from Santa Barbara, California. So just a really simple design, but we will also be coating this mural similarly to our other pieces in the Funk Zone with anti-UV coat and anti-graffiti. So part of our job as the leading organization on this program is to ensure that any works, public murals and public art that encounter any graffiti, we make sure that that's covered up and maintained. So we do coat all of the murals with that, and it's a matte coating, so you won't be able to see the difference between the piece and the coating. It's a clear coat, and there's no additional no additional lighting or signage or anything on this piece. This would be the final design. And the piece is about 13.5 feet high and about 12.5 feet wide.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's about it for this project.
Great. Now, before we jump into questions and all of that, question just to follow up with staff about the board's scope
Yes.
in this project. Can
So-
you repeat that?
Yes,
So-
I will repeat it. So the board today is approving the location, not the content. So the content is shown to you today as a demonstration. It sounds like they already have someone lined up for it, but really what this board is reviewing is this an appropriate location for a mural to go? With the understanding that, as it states in the program, these are intended to rotate every 2 to 3 years. So this will be up for 2 to 3 years, and its replacement will not come back to the board. It will be reviewed by the Santa Barbara Arts Fund using the criteria that were in the handout that I provided to you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we now need to open this up for public comments. So if you could, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on this project? Yes, we do have a speaker, 1, 2, 3 speaker slips. So if I could ask you to take a seat in the audience.
Thank you.
Anna Marie Gott, you'd like to come on up? And you have 2 minutes.
That wasn't available in terms of the handout in the little book, so I'd sure like to see that, and I'd like to know what year it actually was dated. The reason I mention that is because this board did see projects and places. It actually was looking at some sort of guidelines that actually were required to be in front of the city council, but that never happened. A gentleman who actually started this entire program, in which I gave you information on, says in an email, please let us know when the ABR hearing is scheduled, as well as the city council review of your revised art mural language for the city as a whole. This is dated June 1st, 2015. I made a public records request, and even the city attorney could not provide me with a Funk Zone mural program guidelines because nothing was ever completed and nothing actually should be approved until that actually is completely revised. Because as you saw from the emails that I sent out, we now have a huge lit up sign that says Funk Zone that everyone on Garden, everyone on Cabrillo is going to see at night. The entire thing is lit up like a Christmas tree, and that is a sign. Anyone driving into that parking lot sees that sign, and they are
attracted to it. The scope of work is not
it.
that site. It is 24 East Mason.
I understand that. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't really have guidelines, but if staff is going to force those 2014 guidelines down your throat, there's an opt-out because you get to review it at 3 years,
Okay.
and it needs
Thank you
to
very
be
much.
reviewed for content. We can't have a sign. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Rick Clausen. You have 2 minutes as well.
Thank you. My name is Rick Clausen, and I'm here because it's speaking now because it's difficult when I look at the agenda how to comment on an aspect of the overall program when it's on the agenda. So I'm speaking about the mural program and a specific mural, not the one that is on your review today. I'm quite concerned. I really dislike applicants who choose to ask for post hoc permission instead of upfront permission. I'm sorry, they ask for forgiveness rather than permission and get permits for work. And I think that one of the murals that was originally proposed on the back of the building at 22 Anacapa is lit now. Having said that, I'm concerned that the board is now very aware of the significance, the precedent-settingness of PDA, and I would like to learn whose responsibility it is to alert the board when the board is proceeding outside of its guidelines. Is it the staff to say, you only have 3 voting members and that's less than a quorum? Is it the city attorney that must alert you that you're taking an action that's not actually legal? I think those are important things. They speak to the sometimes lack of good support that the board gets to make decisions from that end of the table. Thanks.
Thank you. And last we have Steve Howes.
Good afternoon, all.
Welcome. You have 2 minutes.
I don't think I'll even need all of that. I prepared an eloquent address until I realized just before I came over here that what was agendized was this new location. But I would urge that before you approve any new locations or anything else, you exercise the option that was included in the program approval to revisit this after 3 years and see how it's doing and make any amendments that are needed. The Funk Zone brand sign should never have occurred. Those letters are 200% of what's allowed by the sign ordinance, and you do have purview to regulate the size of letters on murals. So I would ask that you ask staff to agendize a review of this program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to address the board on this item? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment and move on. If you want to come on back up. Move on to questions from the board. Leon, you want to start?
Will this sign be lit?
No, there will be no lighting on this project. Correct.
And this probably isn't a question that you can answer, but are these the guidelines that you work from, the 2014 guidelines? Do you refer to those?
Correct.
You?
Our organization and the Public Art Program Committee on our board.
And I think you said that the Arts Fund would determine who would replace these signs. Is there an alternate to the Arts Fund? Should they not be willing to do that for any particular reason?
I'm not sure how to answer that question at this time. Our organization, it's directly in our mission to collaborate with other organizations. So we, inherently work with other organizations. And this program, when it was started, had a huge list of organizations that were involved with this program. But
so if Arts Fund wasn't willing to do it, they would pass it on?
We would definitely pass it on. Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else? No?
Is this artist or any other artist given a theme or a structure or a vision or a direction, not to produce the work, but to give guidance to what kind of work we would like to see?
So before we move into questions like that, our scope is simply the location, not what it looks like or any size of it, anything like that. Just what is it? Is it in a good location?
Thank you, Chair. No questions then, focusing on that. Thank
Okay.
you, Chair.
Mr. Cunningham?
I have no questions.
So this sign is in an approved location, question mark?
No,
That's why we're here today.
Okay, so it's not. And this sign is painted on a panel, which is then mounted on the building?
No, this one will be painted directly on the building.
So if you decide to move it, how does that happen?
We just paint over this. We would just paint over this project. Yeah. When we adhere it to the building, that would be for, if we want to auction the piece off after, or if we, when we did the historical mural of the Funk Zone on 10 West Yananali, we wanted to preserve that after the mural was switched out. And so that's kind of at the discretion of the artist, the property owner, and the Arts Fund. If we want to keep that piece, or if the artist and we are fine just covering it up once it's ran its course.
Who decided on on the outline of the piece of the so-called mural?
Yeah, so we work with each project is determined. We work directly with an artist, the property owner, and the business owner. So each project is worked on with many groups of people. So we all kind of work on that together, and that's decided together.
Okay, thank you.
Howard, if I may, I think that outline is just a Photoshop to show.
Correct. Yes, this pink line.
Right. Pink
Oh,
line.
yes, correct. So
that's the area that you
this
have.
Is the area.
You gave the artist permission to do his or her thing within that area.
So correct. This is mostly for to help the board to see. This is the space, and there's a pink line right here with the dot with the location. So it kind of just takes the map and zooms in.
So that little clarification triggers another question for my part. So you have a sign projecting from the building now that's in the area of the other sign. What do you say to that person, or what happens to that sign? Is it forever going to be in the area of this mural sign?
Are you talking about this?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think signage maybe is a different item than a mural for this.
That's a blade
Yeah,
sign
and
that identifies the business?
Yes, correct.
So that's permanent.
So we don't talk to the property owners or managers about that
That's a
separate
sign.
signage.
Yours is a mural.
Correct. So
Never
we
the twain
only
shall meet.
Correct. And I know the word sign has been brought up, but we don't usually use sign when we talk about our murals. We just talk about them as painted pieces. Yeah, correct.
And so you're not bothered by the fact that the pink line includes a little piece of window there that.
Yeah, it's just like a
It is what it is.
It's just a rectangle. I could have made the lines cut in, but it was just to show this is the general space of where the piece will be. Dimensions are up
spelled
here.
out clearly up here.
So this pink line will not be drawn on the building. This is just for the application.
I'm just trying to imagine what happens over eons of time as multiple signs, multiple murals come in and take the place, and this moves and a new one comes in and so forth.
Correct.
Just trying to imagine how that plays out.
Correct.
With these little pieces of information that are, sticking into the area that's being, where the artist is given, free range.
Correct.
That's it.
I have another question.
Okay.
So would it be your assumption that each time you think of a new mural or someone proposes a new mural, that you would come back and ask us to approve that location?
Maybe Matthew would like to speak.
Yes, I can clarify. So the program is set up that the board will approve locations. If those locations, the Arts Fund can propose. They can propose it anywhere in the funk zone. That's part of what it says in the guidelines. The board reviews those proposals and determines if those locations are appropriate. And it is your decision as to whether or not they can move forward with painting murals in that location. You will not be reviewing murals as they come through. That is the Arts Fund's
just locations.
Just locations.
But also to clarify, our staff, I really do care that each project that we do is, good on all fronts. And so, our staff wouldn't add an additional mural to this building if it was outside of this area. I think originally there had been a mural location approved on the adjacent wall of this building. And so technically the building location itself was approved, but we came back today to get this specific side of the building approved. And so So
the answer to my question is that each time you would like to put up a new mural in a different location, you would come to this board to get that location approved, and that would fall under the original approval of the original murals?
Program.
It would be added to the program.
The program.
Yes.
As a new location, correct.
Oh, I see, in a new location. So the program is set locations, but it is expandable as people come, as applications come
And
forward.
that is currently how the program functions.
That's what this is all about here, this sign thing program?
Yes. So this outlines the program right here.
This is, yeah,
we have
this-
more information, and it is available in the public records. The guidelines I handed to you were available to the public prior to this meeting if they asked for them.
Okay, got it.
Okay. You have a question?
Yes, sir. So if I understand correctly, we are voting on location only. So if 5 years from now, there's a new mural, we would not be looking at the mural since the location has already been pre-approved.
At this specific location, correct.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have one additional question, actually, one question. Since we are entitled to review this program after 3 years, it's time that we did that. What would we be reviewing, and what would we have the option of revising? I'm asking staff.
And what is our power?
Yes.
Is this our document, AV Arts document? I thought it was a mutual document among different parties.
I think you're right.
Answer that.
Yes. So I know that Nina Johnson is working with the arts community right now to determine a way forward for this program and figuring out what the next steps are. It is within the board's purview to review the program. I would need more time to understand what that would mean. If that means that all locations open up or what have you, we just really need to take a look at it and do so with the city attorney and Nina Johnson in mind as well. So it's not, we'd be happy to do that, and just let us know if that's where you want to go, and we can start work on that.
If we have the option of reviewing it, what will we be reviewing, and is there a point for our reviewing?
Yeah, and
to
we can find that out and let you know.
Okay, I would appreciate a report on that at your earliest convenience.
Okay.
And I think that along with that question, it seems like what we're referring to is a program. And
Yes.
I don't understand how a program is it an ordinance? Under what authority does a program work?
It depends on the level. Generally, they're adopted by resolutions. It would come before the board, and the board would approve it. There's different ways that we get a program established. Most typically, I think by resolution would be how we would do it. Like for your guidelines, for example, they're approved by a resolution. A resolution is just something that ratifies something that exists or is created.
And has there been a resolution to approve this program?
I don't know.
And by resolution, you're referring...
Sorry, I need the audience to stay quiet.
Okay.
Thank you.
By resolution, are you referring to city council action or this board?
It could have been by this board as well, but I have to see. I haven't looked at the program, so I don't know if council gave the board authority to do this. I haven't researched the history of it, so I can't answer your question in a specific term. I can only answer it generally.
And we're getting off the rails here.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
here
and
first. No, stop. I'm sorry. We're getting off the rails here. We need to stick to what's in front of us today. We've already asked that the staff take a look at the history of this. They said they would. So let's move into comments. Do you have any comments?
Not at the moment, but I might before we close out.
Okay.
Chair, my comment is piggybacking on some of the discussions we've heard here. If I review the location of this mural for this location singularly, I'd say fine. But without the information of context or the guidelines that may have been established, I feel as if, for me, I'm a little bit lacking enough bigger picture information than I would like to have.
Okay.
Having said that, for me, singularly, location for mural appears fine, but I would like to have, if available and possible, the bigger picture to look at cohesiveness and context in the whole area.
So you have a couple options. You could either choose not to participate in the vote, or you could ask for additional material. For instance, are there any other murals directly in the area, etc.?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Cunningham.
I'm ready to make a motion to approve this particular location.
Okay. Let's finish with comments. We'll come back to that.
So I cannot support this proposal as this sign mural as proposed, and the reason is that I think that it should fit within an area in which there are no other participating elements. It's a little unless you really want to make the mural incorporate windows, signs, and everything else as part of its design. But for me to have a sign in the upper left-hand corner, and then this tidal wave with the sun, little piece of window and so forth, it looks jammed in. So I would support the sign, the mural, if it were fit within the context of a purple line that missed the projecting sign and missed the window. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I can approve this particular location. I can approve this particular location, but with the understanding that the guidelines, because I don't see this particular location and the circumstances of this particular one influencing the general intent of the mural program, but I would like to have a request that the mural program be revisited, or we get an education at least on what more about the program and the effects, what the issues are, and get education back from staff in regards to it.
Okay. My comments are is I don't have any issues with this particular location. I'm not aware of any other murals within that block, so I don't think it would appear to overwhelm or be visible, clutter or any sort of issue in that regard. So I think it's an appropriate location.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this location, and I'd like to comment that I don't think it's appropriate for this board to comment regarding how it works on the building. There's a window there, there's a blade sign. This is a mural that the artist and others have decided is appropriate there, and in my opinion, the location is appropriate as well. So my motion is to approve the location.
Okay. Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with what Mr. Cunningham said. I'm still back at the issue is that I have no problem where they propose to put this mural. I support that. I still don't know quite under what authority we're doing it. So we're going to say, yes, we can do this, and we can all vote for it. And I'm not sure we know enough about under what authority that's going to be happening.
Okay. Well, we have, for the moment, what is in place is the mural program.
I thought Tava said she would try to get us more information. I didn't get a very clear answer that it was an authority.
I can look into it. I can tell you that it's been going on since 2014, and the city attorney's office hasn't objected to it, as far as I know, for that many years. So I'm assuming there's probably no problem with it.
I would agree if it's in front of us, and we've seen many of these.
And I can say the city attorney's office would have been involved with something like this that was created. So.
Yep. Okay. Is there any more discussion?
So, yes.
Okay.
So I'm not going to support this, not because I don't like the art, because I think as a mural that is not contained within an area that it has total control of, and it impacts other elements in the building, that I can't support the mural in its present proportions. The location is fine, but I will not support the motion going forward because of that. Minority view.
Very briefly, yes.
Am I allowed to clarify?
Yes, please do.
So these mock-ups are also meant to be a general idea of where the mural will be and the size, and so, you know, this may be scaled down. You know, it might not be, the sun may not be in line with the window, you know, it's the general location of it, and a general idea of the scale and the piece itself.
So I appreciate that. You understand my concern.
Correct.
Is that you want an area over which your organization and all the artists that want to do things on that wall can do so without any regard for anyone else's concerns. They can just, this is a one-time locational thing.
That's not true. They have to negotiate with the property owner, the
Well, I
business
understand,
owner.
but with us, for
and
example,
and the
if we
arts.
approve the location, I just want the location to be, not involve other elements. That's why I'm,
Okay. Understood.
okay. But I did appreciate what she said, it can be scaled down. If that's on the record and in the notes, I mean, in the minutes, I could change my vote to support.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have a motion to the floor. I
Yes.
would, under discussion, if I would ask the maker of the motion if we could add a request by staff to have further education on the program for next time, for next location.
Well, we've already made that request, and they
Yeah,
said they
I would accept that, but I don't think it's necessary to have it part of this motion.
No, and I don't think
Okay.
it's necessarily appropriate for in a motion, but yes,
Okay.
I think staff's heard the concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we had a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So motion carries.
You don't want to
Thank
have
you.
that
Thank you so much.
business about scaling it down.
No. No, I don't think that's our business.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2, which is 3775 MODOC. So this is a proposal for an addition of new patio to existing residential care facility. And it's a renovation of existing dining room, an addition of 2,350 square feet. Also proposed are changes to landscaping, construction of trellis structure, installation of accent pavers, outdoor seating, new fireplace, and walkways with benches. No additional residential units are proposed. Project design and final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with project compatibility analysis, outdoor lighting design guidelines, and was last reviewed on July 15th. I was not present, but I did go back and review the video. Was there anybody else not present for that meeting? Everybody was here?
Chair was not here, unfortunately.
Okay, did you review the minute, or the, okay? Would you like to, I mean, I guess it doesn't have PDA yet, so I guess you're welcome to participate, correct?
No, he'd still have to have reviewed the minutes because it's a progressive hearing.
Okay, so it's probably better if you step down from this item, okay? All right, so we had I'll just read the motion so we're all on the same page here. The board is supportive of the project. Provide photographs of all planting. Provide a roof plan that shows location and size of rooftop equipment and screening. Check if lighting is compliant with outdoor lighting guidelines and the municipal code. Reconsider some of the lighting hood designs in the courtyard to have fewer harsh edges. Treat the trellis as an arcade of columns that is in a continuous row. Provide details and materials samples of the trellis and louvers, provide samples of the pavers and details of the connections to other materials. Okay, if you could introduce yourselves.
Sure, my name is Aramis Arcega, project manager with RRM Design Group.
Gordon Brewer, RRM Design Group.
Great, welcome back. Would you like to just go down the list here?
We can, yeah.
Okay.
So, item number 2, provide photographs of all planning. If we look at sheet L 5.0.
You guys find it. I can't open pages.
Yeah, where's
L
your
something?
Where's your landscape
Towards the
sheet?
end here. Let's see. There we go. One more here. So on here, we're able to just
over here, so we're in the.
do a collage of the proposed landscaping or planning. With the adjacent or the following sheets, we'll locate most of these. We also have a small walkway down here, which is where we were proposing those 7 crepe myrtles. And then there's little inlets coming in here as well, so it kind of provides some seating along the way for people going through that passageway. All right, back to the main dining space. We've got the main shaded trellis overhang here. We've got an existing magnolia tree, which is a tree that the community wants to keep and maintain and want to really make it a focus tree for them. So we've got some additional planting in here with some downlights, and that ties into one of our other comments, which I'll talk to in just a bit.
Mr. Chair, we have questions on the landscape plan before we go on to the next
Why don't
item.
we do that now?
Okay. Just one. How tall is this building, that wall?
I'm going to hazard a guess about 20 feet, or
And
18 to 20, I would say.
These trunks are about, what, 2 feet off the wall?
Yeah, I'd say 2 feet to 30 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this pavement here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's continue on. So, provide a roof plan.
Provide a roof plan that shows the location and size of rooftop equipment and any screening. So if we look at sheet 1.50. So we included an additional roof plan on here, which was previously not in our set. Our existing building outline kind of works around here through this new addition. Roof line continues down here all the way through. There is an existing screened-in well. It's all corrugated metal with existing rooftop equipment, which we can see here in the photograph. It's pretty far behind from any direct views. The additional mechanical units that are proposed would be within that space. There's existing space in there which we can locate within the screened-in area.
Okay. Then lighting.
So if we go, we've got an electrical sheet here. We can look at lighting. So for the proposed lighting, we've got Our main entry lighting, which we saw previously, was for these S1s here at the building entry. There's another building entry here, S1s. Those are consistent. We're asked to look at the surrounding contextual architecture out there and see if there's anything that relates to some of the proposed lighting. And we've got similar light fixtures out there. This is the Aquatic Fitness Center that's on kind of across the building itself. Very similar proposed lighting. And this actually happens a little bit kind of to the west of to the east of this arcade, which is existing as well. Other lighting includes these S3s. These are proposed to be on the actual columns, the trellis columns here, and they would be actually pointing down. So it's more of a downlight as opposed to, as previously proposed, some uplighting. We've also removed any sort of uplighting, which we previously had in this tree well. We're still proposing these lights. They'd be on an actual tree strap that would attach to the fixture itself and actually be pointing down. And then for the, we've got some additional pathway lighting, these S4s. We have these kind of throughout the outdoor dining area. Previously presented was a fixture that's a little bit more rectilinear, so we looked at some of the existing fixtures out there on site and are pretty consistent to what's out there. So this is a similar fixture out there and a few others.
Bring those under the camera, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then we also, for the S5s, we've got the, we were proposing the temporary string lights here, which attach to this trellis and the trellis and the building out here. Now, what I'm not seeing is we did have an S2. So I think I might have a cut sheet here. So the new S2, which is the lighting underneath the trellis structure, the walkway itself, between your main members here, we were proposing this pendant light here, which we think ties in with the architecture and the style of the frame or the trellis structure itself, and with some of the lighting out there as well.
Okay, is that all the lighting?
That is all the lighting, yes.
Okay, while we're on that, so we consider some of the lighting hood designs in the courtyard to have fewer harsh edges. Would you say you accomplished that?
I believe so, yeah. We can show you the previous
match
design.
Pretty much what's out there, those round.
Yeah, the previous path lighting was showing a lot different proposed design.
Yeah. Okay. Treat the trellis as an arcade of columns that is in a continuous row.
Okay, we could look at the cover sheet, and then we have or maybe we can look at this 11 by 17 blow up here. Let's see. Yeah, we actually did that. There's about a 4-inch standoff from the row columns that is next to these columns that are next to and centered on the columns. Maybe before that, we could look at the elevation sheet.
So it's 8 to 10.
Sheet number, please.
8 to 10.
Yeah, over here you can see that they're centered, as centered as they can be on the smaller columns, basically. It's kind of replicate the rhythm of that existing.
These are at the building?
They're stood off. The ones that are closest to the building are standing off by 4 inches, yeah. except for when it comes to this entry airlock. They pass the beam that passes close to the building passes over the top of that airlock. So what we're proposing to do is, if you can see in this picture, we're going to have a little aluminum or metal roof, which will have a metal edge that'll tie into the existing aluminum storefront, so that line kind of carries around and comes back there like that. And then they'll have a little short column that'll support that beam when it goes across that little airlock roof, basically. So it will be a continuous, just a total rectilinear little arcade, basically, with these kind of elegant 6x6 aluminum.
Yeah, so as you're looking down the arcade, all the columns are essentially in line.
Okay. Provide details and material samples of the trellis and louvers.
So we brought. So the proposed system, it's a LouverTech system. It's that aluminum, anodized aluminum clear louvers here. This is just a small sample of that. They can either be manual or electronically controlled. We're proposing just a manual system. It comes in with a little hand crank that attaches at the end of the trellis, just depending on location, and somebody can crank it in based on if they want shading or open light coming through. It's adjustable.
These are the internal channels, basically. We don't have a sample of the box beams. It's a 6x8, really clean rectilinear aluminum beam, and then 6x6 clean, crisp cornered. We've got some pictures of it from the manufacturer.
You're proposing this finish?
So the finish for your primary structure would be in this bronze color, and we're proposing the interior actual LouverTech system would be this clear anodized system.
Is this the primary?
Yep.
So then in between...
Sorry.
No.
This is the primary system. So as it shows in the rendering here, that's the proposed bronze, and then your LouverTech is this clear anodized aluminum.
But the LouverTech are essentially louvers between the primary, right?
That's right.
So we're not going to see...
You're not going to see this.
Thank you.
That's concealed mechanism within the beam,
I got
basically. Yeah. You have those pictures of from the manufacturer?
Yeah, so this is an image here, just kind of referencing what that corner design style would look like, and with the LouverTech system in between.
Do you have a larger image?
I do not of that corner.
Okay. Are there details to go along with that?
Just we've got our elevations, and we've got we can flip over to the next sheet. There's an additional axonometric for the shade structure that's in the outdoor dining area. So the next sheet, A211. Got a couple of different details here. We've got our floor plan, just a basic L shape, very rectilinear, matching our existing elevation for the building. Same kind of corners to match that. This shows that corner with your primary structure and your LouverTech system on the side.
Okay.
It's a design build thing, so they do their own detailing, but it's just a very crisp, monolithic, clean, snap together aluminum covers. So.
Okay, and then provide samples of the pavers and details of the connections to the other materials.
Gotcha. So we can look at sheet L 3.0.
2.0.
So first, the pavers themselves, we've got two systems. We've got a darker banding line.
L 3.0.
L 3.0, yes. a darker banding line for your detail, and then the overall larger paver systems would be in the tan color. So we've got a couple samples here. This is the banding color. This is the Monterey Sands tan charcoal, and then the larger Keynote 1 here is your tan color here.
That sample is not the finished size. We didn't feel like lugging the big one in.
Yeah, so we so this is just for color reference here.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Are you going to install these with the bevel side up or the flat side up? You mentioned, or your landscape architect mentioned at the last meeting that they would be smooth to accommodate walkers.
Right. So based on the manufacturer's information, it's only a 3 millimeter gap in between the joints for all these pavers. It's about the eighth of an inch, so it's pretty minimal. And that's one thing we are pretty concerned about is we want to make sure that it's easily walkable through.
Looks like they're colored all the way through, though, so you could turn them upside down and have no joint.
Potentially, yeah, that's something we can look into. Yeah, if
okay.
Trying to minimize that joint, that might.
Okay, thank you.
It does say in details of the connections to other materials. So
we've got a couple details on here. We've got just a section through here adjacent to some of the control joints and surrounding just adjacent ground line, but we don't have any other transitions beyond that. We really just have the transitions between the pavers themselves and some of the landscaping out there, and maybe concrete, which some of the concrete detailing we've got on this down there.
Okay. Does that conclude what you want to show us?
It does, yeah.
Okay. All righty. We will open for public comment. Seeing no one, we will close public comment and move on to questions. Richard, do you want to start?
Yeah, if you go back to the lighting sheet on the string lights, you say temporary. Are those indeed temporary, or are they permanently installed but temporary lights?
They're temporary for a special function.
Temporarily installed.
Temporarily installed. Yeah.
We just want to make sure we provide any electrical, just the plug-ins and the system to set up for them to be able to easily take them off on and off as needed.
Okay, it just seems like it was a very long span, and I was wondering if you can get them tight enough, but that's a logistics thing. The other question is, can you, I'm sure you've explored this, but can you get the fins and the operating edges in an anodized aluminum?
The manufacturer actually prefers the fins not to be anodized because they have a lot of problem patching that if it gets chipped or whatever. They do a powder coat that is an aluminum anodized color, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, mill finished aluminum anodized color, the natural aluminum color. But they feel that protects the product a lot better.
The only concern I have is that I think that there is in the guidelines comments about extra shiny roof materials. And I don't know if this area is big enough to...
Or visible.
Or visible enough to be of concern. But I think it's okay. That's my question.
Howard?
So back to the arcade, the double arcade. Can we look at your plans there with the 4-inch offset on the columns? I have a question about that. Might want to look at a plan. So these are the columns with the 4-inch offset, is that what you're talking?
That's correct, yeah.
And these are 6 by 6?
6 by 6.
Yes.
Okay, and so, for example, on this side, these columns are right at the edge of the concrete paving, is that right?
That is correct, yeah.
And on this side, they're not, or are they?
They're in a planter for the most part.
In a planter, and but they're not at the edge of your
No.
sidewalk. And so, if you were to make the two the same, so it was an arcade, what happens? It pulls away from the building, and you end up having sunlight come in there? Is that the objection? You want to have this as close to the...
Yeah, we wanted to have as much room as possible.
Same for accessibility, too. We're trying to maintain that clear width between the structure itself as much as possible, and while still maintaining a gap between the building
Okay.
itself and the structure.
It's a small item, but it's fine.
You have you showed an uplight that you said was going to be used as a downlight, downward pointing light. Do you have a detail showing how that mounts on the building or on the structure? That's the one.
So their cut sheet comes in with a couple different accessories. They've got the tree strap, and then they also have this power canopy, which is what we're proposing.
Just put it right here.
Yep, sorry. So this is that BK light fixture, can be attached on a vertical post or vertical wall. So we're proposing that you do this at the post.
So it's got a escutcheon, I guess you call it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's it, thank you.
No questions.
I don't have any questions either, so let's go to comments. Richard?
Yeah. Well-designed sensor project. Well documented.
Howard?
Reinforce those comments. Come along.
Bob?
I think the double row of crepe myrtles next to the 20-foot building, I think you might want to just revisit that. The trees have a spread, of at least 12 feet, and you've got them maybe 30 inches away from the building, which means you're going to have full-size trees on one side and then half trees on the other. If that's what the client wants and that's what the designer feels is appropriate, I'm not going to argue about that. I just don't think it's necessarily the best solution. In addition, I think the layout of the trees needs to be revisited because one of them is very close to the edge of the concrete, probably within a foot, which could be problematic. There we go. So, may I have a pointer, please? Thank you. Yeah, this tree is right here on a pavement corner. And,
Yeah, we'll get them to.
Yeah, and again, these, in terms of long-term maintenance, it's maybe an issue, probably not a big deal. I like the idea of the double row, the alley of trees. So, maybe you want to relocate these, or the bench pads?
Yeah, they're little bench inlets for your benches in there.
Yeah, your modular thing is really nice here. Maybe you want to just revisit that so that you can put the bench pads, between the trees, move this one and have it be between trees. I don't know. It's just that right there, obviously, is a problem. The other issue is the band around the tree for the light, around the magnolia tree. That's not really a good idea because the tree is going to want to grow. And too often I see straps around trees that don't get adjusted. Eventually the tree ends up being girdled by the straps. If that light probably has a screw-in mount that, it kind of sounds like that's going to hurt the tree, but it's a whole lot better for the tree than the strap. So I just would advise that you do that instead. Other than that, I agree that I think this is ready for final approval.
Okay. Leon?
I agree with Mr. Six and Mr. Wittosh. I think this is ready to go to project design and final approval.
Okay. Does somebody want to make that motion?
I would make that motion, but I would ask that the landscape details be revised so that the tree light mount location or method is adjusted, and the pavement or the tree layout for that LA of crepe myrtle trees be adjusted before the drawings are finally stamped.
So, well, hold on. So, I don't know if that's specific enough that staff can review that.
So, Chair Moore, Board Member Cunningham, your guidelines allow you, they say specifically that a final approval may be obtained subject to conditions that allow minor details to return on the consent calendar.
Yeah. That's what I would ask for then.
Okay. So you want to revise PDA to return, PDA and final to
return.
Is that correct? No, not final.
Okay.
Not final.
Caveat, didn't write these guidelines, and I'm not particularly fond of this. Usually what I would recommend, I think, is that it PDA with a return for final on consent, and that's just a lot cleaner.
Okay, then I would, did I make that motion? Or did some, okay. Then motion for PDA with the project to return to consent for the adjustments to the landscape plan with regard to the crepe myrtle tree locations and or the pavement in the LA, and the strap attachment of the light on the magnolia tree be revised to screw attachment, and consents in 2 weeks or 1 week, so you could be back in a week and get final approval on consent.
Right, with the following compatibility analysis.
Sure. Now I'm going to have to read it. Where is it? I do have it here somewhere, right, written? Okay. The project is in compliance with city and charter and municipal code. Proposed development project's design complies with all city regulations and is consistent with ABR guidelines. It is compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. It's an infill project that matches existing architecture to a substantial degree. It's appropriate in terms of mass, bulk, and scale. Again, it's part of an existing development and does not conflict with that. There are no adjacent landmarks or historic resources that this would be in conflict with. It does not obstruct any public views of the ocean or mountains, and again, under number 6, appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. It's part of an existing development that so that it does not change anything in that regard. Done. Thank you.
I second it.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. I guess we should read that back just to be
have
clear.
Project design approval with the project to return on consent for final. That the applicant restudy the location of the crepe myrtles in the alley and their relationship to the bench pads, and that a screw attachment be used for the lighting in the trees rather than a girdle. And then the project compatibility analysis.
Chair Moore, Board Member Cunningham, I just noticed we used the word study with regards to the LA of trees. Is there something more specific?
Revise.
Is there?
Revise the pavement design and or the tree layout in order to avoid conflicts.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. So we had a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Or you mean you're abstaining?
Abstain, right?
You should just
Oh,
abstain.
excuse me. Forgive me, Chair. Forgive me.
One abstention. Motion carries.
Dispersions on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, okay, we have next item number 3.
To the minute.
Matthew, do we want the lighting?
To the minute.
And any material?
Sorry, yeah.
Boards?
So that's it on there.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to note that we're on schedule. We made up time during that last one.
That's
excellent work.
Excellent note. Thank you, Bob. Okay, item number 3, 1260 Coast Village Circle. It's a proposal for an exterior remodel of an existing commercial structure, proposing replacement of existing windows, roofing, and siding, as well as the construction of a parapet and faux chimneys, a front patio and site walls, and changes to the parking configuration. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. This project requires compliance with compatibility analysis and outdoor lighting design guidelines, and was last here July 15th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
board members, just to remind you, this project does require modification for alterations within the front setback. You'll be reviewing, obviously, the whole design today, but when you pass this on to the staff hearing officer, if it is at that point, we will need the project compatibility analysis, preliminary compliance statement, and if we could get some specific comments on the design of the building at the faux chimney that requires the modification.
Okay. You could introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Ryan Mills, DMHA.
Michael Stroh, DMHA.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to also mention, we just realized we only have 2 sets. We're hoping that is going to suffice. We usually have 3. We only have 2 today. Okay. And then we're glad to be back. We were here 2 weeks ago. We believe we've addressed the lion's share of these. We'll talk through all the minutes. But we also wanted to reiterate kind of the milestone for us. What's important is to get every and all bits of feedback from this board and support, but most importantly now is getting specifically comments for that mod, because currently the mod process is taking some time. There's sort of a backlog, so we would love that specifically. So with that said, do you want to read through the minutes, or shall we?
Do you want to just go through them one by one?
We can.
Because there are a number.
Yep, we can. Okay, so number 1 meeting or minute was proposed Spanish design is acceptable. Okay. Number 2, the patio scheme at the front of the project is appropriate with the following conditions added. A, add a shade providing tree along the south elevation, and B, remove the decorative wrought iron gate. So we did, where's the pointer guy? So we did both of those things. So a couple moves. So shade tree, obviously, so kind of pushing to the southwest corner as much as we possibly could would provide the most amount of shade for both the opening and the patio. So you can see here is where it's located along the curve of that site curb. In addition, to make that possible, we did have to reduce the patio wall. Additionally, removed that gate that some of the board members had issue with. So kind of a trifecta of moves to accomplish that shade tree there. It shows up here, and we'll show it to you in elevation as well. And it additionally just provides more landscape planting for that whole front area. So number 3, provide pocket planters along the west elevation wall. So that's along this walkway here. So we actually did review this with our CalCASP consultant and dug in. So due to our constraints of the easement, and we have a 48-inch minimum, we're basically constrained currently for that. We were informed that we were not able to provide pocket planters along this walkway. that accurately?
Yes. One thing we did do to try and augment that was we pulled, you may remember, we actually had this wall of this patio kind of projecting all the way out to that curve on the sidewalk. We actually pulled that back so that we could actually get some landscaping along the front side of the building, and then actually as we augmented the design on the back of the building, it gets you at least at either end. We couldn't provide it in the interim, but
so that's number 3. So that's how we balanced number 3. Number 4, if approved by Public Works, provide a sidewalk along the front right of way. Again, that we met with Public Works, Building Department, and Planning. It is not required for this project, and currently not a part of our scope, which actually allowed us to feel like we had a little bit more wiggle room for that shade tree. We're straddling. If the sidewalk does go in there, it's pretty close, so we're going to give the tree a head start.
And that, just to be clear, the species of the tree, we checked with Parks and the approved street tree on Coast Village Circle is a New Zealand Christmas tree. So that's what we proposed there.
Number 5. Along the west elevation, provide architectural covers over the existing building utilities. So up here at the front, do you want to go to the elevation? So
we actually we're hemmed in by two factors here. One more sheet, sorry. So we actually have to replace the existing panels which project out on the facade, and so we're going to replace those existing panels. But there's 2 issues. One is I have to provide clearance in front of them by code. I can't actually cover them up. And 2, because of my 48-inch sidewalk, I have to recess them, and 2, I can't project anything out off the face of the building on that side. So we're going to recess them. They'll be painted the same color as the building, and that's about as much as we can do with it.
Number 6 is add planting along the north elevation.
So we've redesigned the patio significantly to add substantial amounts of planting back here. The last time you guys saw it, we had the patio out here. We hadn't really indicated any planting so much. So what we did is, and this kind of ties into some of the other comments, but we actually ended up. So we did need a little tiny. Small little enclosure here for the AC condensing unit. Oh, sorry. The AC condensing unit. We pulled the trash enclosure as far away as we could. We have a 3-foot grade difference here, so we pulled it as far away as we could to still get accessibility and still not have any sort of substantial retaining wall here. This, in a sense, becomes just a really tall curb, which allows then. For a bunch of landscaping here and behind the spaces, and then we actually just continued. They have the neighbor has the landscaping up along the side here. We're going to just kind of augment and tie into that, and we're going to work with them to both enhance their landscaping as well as just sort of tie our planter in. And we put a tree back there. We haven't decided on a species yet, but we felt that that was one of the comments that was put forth as an idea the last time. We thought that was a good idea for a nice shade as people walk and approach the building. So that gives a nice softness to this that it didn't have before, and so you end up with. And we'll do some potted plants and things along the face, but you end up with a lot of landscaping along here to screen that.
This is not the final. This is not what you have now, right?
This is what we're proposing now.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
There was 2
What's
of those.
different on the plan?
No, there's
2 enclosures.
There's 2.
So you're noticing that smaller.
It's that one. What was the question, Howard?
The elevation doesn't look like the plan, but I see that it does.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we're going to the chimney. So number 7 is define the 2 currently shown define the two currently shown detailing methods of the chimney. So we showed one of each last time. Again, being conceptual, we were kind of studying both. So in looking back at them, we realized as we're maintaining the roof structure, so they're fairly deep eaves currently. It's 2.5 feet at the rake in addition to this west elevation. So we're opting to maintain that both front and back. So there's, a good 2.5 feet of eave in front of that chimney piece. So, the chimney will read as if it's beyond, and we maintain that.
It's going to be just one course of tile next to the chimney.
It's about 2.5 feet. I think we're going to get 3 or 4. I think it's going to, yep.
I see.
And that's the existing structure that was there.
And then on the back side, it'll match that.
So 8 asked to clarify those details, so that's what we're proposing, to maintain the existing eave and rake details. 9, clarify the window conditions on all fenestrations. Maintain as much recess from the face of the frame to the exterior finish as possible. So let's go to the floor plan. So we agree that's always a good thing wherever possible. So, but within our constraints, this is an extremely small space. We're already asking for mods, so really the only opportunity we'd have to do that would be to fur out all the interior spaces for the wintering. So we're asking that we don't do that and we work in the existing confines of the 2x4 framed walls. Of course, we'll get it as close to the inside as possible, but that's kind of where we're at, rather than doing all that extra framing that really takes away from the already constrained interior.
To be clear, with the exception of the 2 new east windows, we aren't reframing a bunch of openings on this. These are all existing openings, so it's not our intention to have to reframe the walls and dive into redoing the shear and anything like that. So.
Okay, number 10. Several members of the board would like to see detailing added to the plaster conditions in order to increase thickness. So again, we're currently proposing, we feel like we've provided an ample amount of detail. It's a very small building, pretty simple, so we did not want to add additional trim or surrounds to the outside. We didn't think that was fitting as well. So the ask is to maintain a fairly simple approach to these openings. Number 11, provide proposed exterior lighting samples. So we've selected some.
Actually, there's just 2 of them, but so we selected just a really simple, the dark bronze Handelman fixture, and basically, if you swap out their socket for their little low profile socket, we've been working with them to do this. And then use the low-profile LED bulb. It does meet dark skies. And so we have 3 of those proposed. We have 1 proposed over the entry here, and then we have 2 proposed at the northern entry flanking the door.
Does that show a size? Was there a size on this?
We haven't called out a. I think they're either 14 or 16 inch.
And that's the one you have shown on the south elevation also?
Yes.
So,
the south elevation, we probably would go with a little bit bigger one. So.
This is north. Those are approximately showed in the north elevation. You're right. On the south, it appears larger. That was just the conceptual sketch. So what we'd propose is the same fixture, maybe the larger size. We could absolutely fine-tune that, and for PDA, have all of those specific details for the exterior locked in. 13, provide vent details at exterior walls. We're vaulting portions of the interior, again, just to create more light and space. So we're not needing vent details, and similarly, you can see a small face of a building. There's, in our opinion, a lot happening already, so we're keeping the existing rafter, so we just didn't think there was enough room to really comfortably add more detailing. 14, not adding any proposed mechanical units on the rooftop is preferred. So that's why that second smaller enclosure was introduced. So we're proposing no rooftop equipment. 15, the north proposed patio area shall be redesigned so the trash enclosure is either reduced in size and or pushed away from the entrance. So I believe Michael talked to that previously.
So we've done that actually, again, as I covered before. Sort of because the trash enclosure has to be accessible, we've sort of pushed it to the limits of where we would like to go so that we're not building a retaining wall here. But that flattens out the patio, and it gives substantially more space here. Because of the added landscaping, we've sort of screened it from everywhere. We've even screened the trash enclosure from the patio itself. To cover some of the equipment, we were looking at having the condensing unit in the trash enclosure itself. That became kind of problematic. We actually had thought we had needed additional dental equipment out here, some compressors and things, but we actually have moved them to the inside of the building in a soundproof enclosure. So basically now we just have a compressor on the outside, and then we have trash, green waste, and recycling. The final size of this, we're still working through with the city as far. We believe we have enough. We don't need like a big 4-yard bin or anything like that. But the size of the trash enclosure will be predicated on accessibility
and minimized.
Yes.
Okay. Number 16 was reconfigure the parking to maximize the amount of possible landscaping and to maximize patio area. I think you just covered that. 17, coordinate with Transportation Division regarding visibility access to the site and provide architectural wayfinding feature at the southwest corner.
So 2 things here. What we found out was that there is this weird existing little curb here that kind of comes around in the front of the site. Actually, if we go to the the photos. What we actually found out was that was put in by a laborer, like right before they sold the building, to make it look more attractive. This little guy here, and of course it's built right in the right-of-way. As a part of what we are proposing to do here, we're going to eliminate that, which would eliminate any further view triangle issues that may or may not have been created by somebody putting that in. And then our patio wall was pulled back significantly by the redesign. We pulled it back almost 6 feet from that. So there shouldn't be any real visibility issues.
And all of that is, 12 inches or lower, so it doesn't necessarily impede on that view triangle.
So
let's see.
The second part is wayfinding.
Wayfinding. Oh, right.
So we are still looking at how to do that best. There are a lot of options. In this case, because it's such a small building, it probably will be done with small signage versus some kind of, architectural enhancement. But again, we'll have that resolved before we come back for PDA.
I believe that covers it.
Provide location of the bicycle rack.
Oh, we did. So you can see last minute, but as part of the patio, we can balance that with the amount of landscaping there.
What was that question?
The location of the bicycle rack.
Okay, do you want to add anything else?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, so would anyone in the audience like to open up for public comment? Oh, and we have a speaker slip if you guys could take a seat in the audience. And we got, please come on down, and you have 2 minutes.
So hopefully if you've been able to look at my photo, this is what it looks like in terms of the site right now, which means that all of this is in the public right-of-way. That's the property line right there. So what they're asking to do is build in the public right-of-way where we're supposed to have a sidewalk. I'd also like to point out that you have not received any documentation that says very specifically what the modifications are. We just heard something about a chimney, but wouldn't this actually need an encroachment permit or a modification, and should you be giving away public land for a private gain? But more importantly, take a look at this parking lot. This is a dentist office. It is not a residential unit. The last time you went to the dentist, you probably waited. There were probably a lot of people there. Could you imagine coming to the dentist, parking, and then now your dentist appointment is over, but you can't get out because the other person is still in the chair? Is this a compatible design? It's not. Because guess what? Under your ordinances, if you read them, commercial parking is not supposed to be tandem. You can't even get a waiver for it. Just think about it. Think about this space and how it would actually be used. What are you going to do? Walk into a dentist room while someone is maybe completely under and take their keys and move their car? Or are you going to have the nurse become the valet? How exactly would that work? It wouldn't, because it's not supposed to. This actually should be denied. You need the actual case modification letter, which will spell out all of the problems and any questions that transportation or anyone else has, and if it complies with the pedestrian master plan. Thank you very much.
Okay, would anyone else in the audience like to speak about this project? Seeing no one, we will close public comment and move on to questions. Richard, do you want to start?
Well, I was to understand last time that the 2 tandem parkings were not in the required amount of parking, the parking count. So I think that issue is dead. Your elevations have, if we go to elevations, you have, this is just sash, that's not trim.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And why, was there a logistic reason why the tree or an additional tree can't be planted in that triangular piece there?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Art. Just want to understand something. Thank you. So we talked about wayfinding, and so what could you explain what I meant when I said provide wayfinding? Why would you want people to know how to get in here? Mm-hmm. And does that include pedestrians? Because there's no walkway here now. So do they park across the street, and would they need wayfinding in here?
The way the site works now, so Coast Village Circle abuts the freeway, so there's some street parking, but for the most part, this abuts all the shopping centers, so much of the parking is inboard, and then provided there's parking here and here for these 2 buildings. So we don't anticipate pedestrian activity to come to the dentist. That's typically not what you'd expect. So all the parking, so patients park back here. So wayfinding absolutely would be, once they've arrived here, we're totally open to quite simply being at concept. We haven't addressed all the signage issues. We think they're interesting ideas. We just haven't got there yet.
So this is an ADA compliant walkway?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do you need a walkway along this west side? There are no entrances here. This is going nowhere, and nowhere is coming in.
Because by code, you are required on an existing building to have one accessible path to the public right-of-way. So we understand that there is no sidewalk there existing, but the city's not requiring one. So if the city required one, we'd put one in, but they're not.
Say that again. The city is
not requiring a public sidewalk. We've talked
public sidewalk.
We've talked to Public Works. We've talked to, so, and we have reviewed the issue with our CASP consultant, and they have said, if the city is not requiring a public sidewalk, you are only required to provide the means of egress the accessible means of egress to the public right-of-way. Beyond
Which is
that,
here.
to
Right.
there.
So why, this would pass under the tree here, is that the idea?
Correct. Yeah, so I think the logic typically is, and we've done a project like this before where you provide the access, then when the time does come, when sidewalk projects come along, we've done our part, or the owners of this property have done their part. When the
Right.
sidewalk comes, they connect.
This is actually why we located the street tree where we did. Rather than locating it, over here, or we pushed it as far back and up against the property line as possible. It's probably going to end up just sort of straddling it, despite any, root intrusion issues that we may or may not have. But we've pushed it as far north as possible so that when they actually do come in and put a sidewalk, they can have a parkway on the back side of it and everything else, and it would be just fine. So rather than a replanting.
So if the Public Works in the future puts a right-of-way in there, puts a sidewalk, your tree is in the way?
No.
Goes around?
Yes.
Sorry. Goes around, okay. All right, so what is the change in grade from these tandem parking and this walkway in front of the trash?
There's going to be about, so the walkway back here is actually for the accessibility of pulling the trash cans out and putting them out for the trash guys. There's going to be about a 15-inch difference here. So someone who is not required accessible parking, somebody who is parking in a normal parking space, would have to walk around this way.
So you think that a person parked here or here mainly, gets out of their car, this is an 8-foot, 10-foot space or what?
9.
Yeah, it's
9. So then they have to squeeze between their car and the edge of a curb here, which has got a 15-inch drop, squeeze by there. They can't step down. Couldn't you provide steps there?
Sure.
I would think that would be a,
that door.
maybe tweak the door a little bit, put a landing, and make it possible to descend down into this nice little paseo here. Yeah.
That's fine.
I wish there was some way to negotiate away this thing here, this CASP requirement to provide, because really, it is the law. It's the law.
So
I understand.
You'd have to provide a ramp in the front of the building, which would never fit. And because we can provide...
What do you mean, like a ramp here?
Yes, and because we can provide a means of egress from the rear door, and that's the primary entry anyway, a lift wouldn't be acceptable as equivalent facilitation for this.
Lift.
Yeah, the little,
So let's just explore this. What I really am getting at is the question and maybe the comment that it would be nice if you didn't have to pave that if you could plant that, and that somehow use the building as the way out. And you say it would require too much ramp distance. I mean, I don't know how much. What is the difference in?
You'd need a 30-foot ramp in front of the
This
building.
is what's the drop from between here and here?
The ramp. This is actually not 30 feet. Sorry, 24. It's about 24 inches from here to where the sidewalk would end up being. Over
I see.
Here. So.
Yeah, that's a problem. It sure is. And there goes your little patio. Did you ever think of making this a bow shape so you could kind of tuck that in, maybe make it larger and smaller, fit within the...
That's actually what we had last time, but we pulled it in to fit the tree.
I see. Okay.
Anything else?
I recall a gate being there. I don't recall the bow shape.
Well, it was a combination, right? We followed this contour, so
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
no,
the
I don't
bow
mean
you're
that.
talking about, and then we hugged the
Yeah.
property, yes, and then the gate here and
Yeah.
a step. So, and the other constraint
I
is
see.
we're down to, I think, just shy of 6 feet. So anything smaller in that patio we find would be fairly unusable. So we were hoping at least a couple bistro chairs could be sitting out there for a little fresh air. So we'd like to maintain that size.
So all doors and windows are here? No doors, windows here? Nothing? Okay. That's all I have. Questions?
What's the width of the public right-of-way?
This
the
here?
total street?
Well, yes, along Coast Village Circle.
Yeah, 50 feet.
Well, from the curb to your property line.
Oh, it's about 8.
Is there a scale handy?
Got a scale?
Yeah, there we go. So this is 1/8. So
Yeah, what do we got here?
yeah, 8 feet.
Okay. And the other questions I was going to ask have already been asked, so I will pass.
Okay.
Chair have to stay on here for last one.
Okay, I think you can participate in this hearing, in this case.
Did you review the video?
Questions only.
No questions.
Okay. Leon?
So I'm looking at this sheet and also AS 102. That property line looks to be different in the two drawings. Am I reading that incorrectly? Property line here looks like it comes out from the edge of the building, and on the other drawing, it appears to touch the building. I'm seeing that correctly?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
So that's the corner of the building. This is the roof, right?
Right.
Yes.
So the corner of the building is about 3 feet away from the property line. And then, that's about what it is here. The roof comes all the way over.
Got it.
And it scratches the property line.
Got it. Next question, are the utility boxes existing?
They are. When they put in that little weird stacked wall, they actually buried one of them, so to undo that. So they'll have to be reset as part of this.
Okay. Next question is, I'm just curious as why you didn't provide steps from the parking lot to that area. There must have been a reason you were...
No, not specifically. We just, again, we were focused on accessibility and trying to get as much patio as we could at the time.
It would be 2 risers.
Yeah, it'd be relatively simple. So
Maybe it's 3. It's 3.
Yeah.
Safe side 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. So we're gonna have to deal with if we go down that path. This door doesn't work there.
Well, we'll make it work. We can make that a
away
little
a couple
smaller,
of feet
I
just to
think.
give a little...
So it'd be interesting to get feedback, and
Yeah.
if we think that's a better approach than to ask employees to walk around.
And the conversation you had with Public Works about the sidewalk, it said it's not required. Is it recommended?
They actually didn't say. They just said as part of this project, we're not going to require it.
It's like a get out of jail free card.
And it currently doesn't continue down the street either. So I don't.
I visited the site a couple of times. It's a mess how things are there existing. There's all sorts of things. It certainly seems unsafe. See if I have other questions. No.
Okay. I don't have any other questions other than your concern, Howard, about wayfinding. They're going to end up with accessibility signage all up and down this side, directing people to the entry. So
Yeah.
it may not be an attractive sign, but it'll be something. Richard? Do you have comments?
I think it's a fine project. I'm ready to put it on to the planning modification hearing officer with positive comments and with no significant issues as far as their context. I'd like to see another tree in the I'd like to see another tree in the triangular parking lot. Look forward to the wayfinding solution. Those are my comments.
Okay. Howard?
I agree with those. I have 2 others, maybe 3 others. I think this wall remnant really should be removed, and you should do your own thing there. And if you make this a plastered wall, I would make this a plastered wall and this a plastered wall, so that you have objects of the same vintage kind of collection. And I would ask you to maybe pull this trash enclosure wall away from your tandem parking space a little bit, so there's a little squeeze room there so that people can walk through without having to slide sideways, and maybe transition with some steps from a landing down here. If you manipulate that trash enclosure a little bit, I think you'll find a way. And with regard to the depth of the windows, I understand that, is it a 2x4 wall now?
Yes.
And you can't project here, but you can project from here. That you might be able to have projected window frames here, and you might be able to have recessed window frames here. Not the whole wall, just around the window, so that you can tuck those nailing fins back onto maybe a stud or a framing in the back, and return this the stucco into your sash and frame. It would add a lot to the building. You only have to do that 4 times here. I think, is there a window in this? And the same thing on the ends. You don't have the same issues on the ends as you do.
So
where
you're
narrow.
recommending furring out on the perimeter of the window on the interior side to allow.
Yeah, on the west side I would recess. I'm going to build on the inside, and on the east side I would project out where you have the room. Anyway, those are just
different condition, exterior conditions.
Yes. Yeah.
And then how about north and south? Where do you think of?
Well, here it's pretty open season. You could probably add or push if you want. And here the same thing. It might be nice to have a little frame around the door anyway, but it would give some depth and thickness to the walls. And these are comments. So those are my comments. Basically, get rid of this, fix this, and fix the windows. It's a very nice project, and I think that what you're doing to the front yard, if Public Works isn't requiring this really gives you a nice feeling to the front yard. More landscaping.
Yeah, agree.
I agree. You need to have a staircase here and guardrail to keep people from stepping into a lower plateau here. So I don't think I need to say any more about that. I agree. We need another tree here. I feel really strongly that you need to have a sidewalk that continues the sidewalk from the east, matching width or whatever minimum Public Works would require if they were to require a sidewalk. I think we have the ability to require a sidewalk. I think it needs to go in now. If you landscape this, we're going to be faced with what we've seen on Coast Village Road. Coast Village Road? Yeah. In other locations, obviously, more toward the tennis courts where sidewalks are being installed now and landscaping is being wiped out, including trees. You have a grade difference here of about 2 feet. If you install this tree at 12 inches above the grade of the curb, then you're going to put a sidewalk in here. There will have to be root pruning done to the tree. Chances are pretty good that it'll destroy the tree. So I think we need to require a sidewalk here, and I think this whole thing needs to be done at the same time. I don't want to see landscaping removed when Public Works comes back in with a city-funded project to install a sidewalk. There's no reason why the developer can't pay for a sidewalk there. So I would not support this without a sidewalk included as part of the project. Thank you. Otherwise, I think it's a great project. I do like it. I have a habit of being too critical and not including any praise, but I think you're doing a nice job of improving this building.
Thank you, Bob.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
To Board Member Cunningham's comment on the sidewalk, I just want to let the board know the only way the applicant could install a sidewalk in the city's right-of-way is with the Public Works Department's approval, so that would be something that they would have to approve before the board could require it. I don't know if it's apparently the applicants talked to them and they said it's not necessary. Whether they would approve it if it was voluntary, I don't know. But it's we work within our infrastructure within the right of way is really the exclusive jurisdiction of the Public Works Department.
Then the applicant should apply for a Public Works permit to install a sidewalk and allow Public Works to then say yes or no. But if Public Works says no, then the project needs to be designed appropriately so that when a sidewalk does come in the future, that tree will be able to accommodate the work, and that the other landscaping can accommodate that and not just be, wiped out because of a new sidewalk.
Yeah, Chair Moore and Board Member Cunningham, the board does have the discretion to adjust the landscaping in that area, and with regards to the tree, but not to require a sidewalk.
Correct. Just to clarify, the board is limited in its ability to require additional elements that are not being proposed in a project. For instance, if it's not a requirement such as this, the board can't absolutely require one to be installed. Is that correct?
Correct, within the right-of-way in particular.
I would still like to make the point that the sidewalk is advisable, and we should pass that along to both the staff hearing officer and Public Works, that we believe, at least I believe, that it's a necessary part of this project.
Okay.
And I'll add to it, people park across the street. The parking here is very limited. People will be parking on the street to get into this building, and without a sidewalk, they're going to have to walk in the driveway, which is not safe.
Yes.
Okay. Finished now, thank you.
Okay, Leon.
I also think it's a good reuse of this building and a good project. I think the changes you made on the entry on the north side of the building are much improved. I think that works quite well. I also think that the changes you made on the south side of the building to make that building more accessible is also commendable. But I'm stuck on the sidewalk thing. And I see that there are 12 seats in the waiting room. I see there are 7 chairs. So that adds up to the possibility of 19 people. Then I suppose there's some employees. You might have another 6 or 8. So there could be 20-some people in this. And so you had said that most everybody is going to, wouldn't be coming from out here and wouldn't necessarily need a sidewalk, but it seems to me like they're going to have to come from somewhere. And I realize that we have 5 on-site parking places, but I think what you said last time was the parallel parking places would be used by the employees, the back half, which would solve the problem of somebody having to come in there and get their keys and move their car. But it still seems like the parking is very short, and so the importance of being able to get to the building safely seems really important. And I agree with Mr. Cunningham here that if possible, we ought to make that a condition.
Anything else?
That's all.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it's certainly would be ideal if a sidewalk could be installed. I think it improves the project for everybody. The owner, the value of the property is improved. Better for the tenant. So I would encourage you to speak with your client and encourage them to pursue that if at all possible. And I think the project overall is looking good. I think if there's opportunities to improve, it might be in the configuration back here. It seems like it would be ideal to get this away from the front entry because it's going to be a little noisy. It seems like there's a possibility to really combine these and maybe lengthen it out and maybe move the tree around to get the stair to work. So it looks like you could solve that puzzle.
Chair, I would like to add something about the sidewalk.
Okay.
I had said that I could support the project as proposed if the Public Works Department did not require a sidewalk. I do think that a sidewalk is, if it's not required, it's like recommended. I think it would be a good idea. For one thing, this wayfinding thing would then be connected to a public sidewalk in the front. Number two, it does take away from the landscaping of the front of the building. Maybe by configuring this a little differently, you can get this street tree, which is a potential street tree, is actually in the way of a concrete sidewalk. So you might want to push this to either one side or the other, and maybe add a tree in a location where a future street tree would be located, so that you would then get that tree established as part of your scheme with or without a sidewalk. But then it would be in anticipation of a continuation of the hardscape along the street. That is kind of makes a lot of sense for the long-term development of the property, and it would link up your CASP requirement here, and to also parking across the street. But that would be the only other comment I would change my own view of that.
Okay. We need a motion. Somebody willing to tackle that?
So we'd like to see these comments addressed before we give PDA? And there's also this, no final appealable decision can be made anyway.
Let's hear from the applicant. Your goal, again, was to get comments so you could move through the modification process.
Correct. That's the next leg of the race, which is most important to us. So any comments, I haven't heard any comments specific towards the actual modification items. So we would love to move through that, get support to at least move through that, and then come back, and you're right, for PDA address any and all of the board's concerns.
Okay.
So I could support this project going forward to SHO. Support the modification.
Okay. Let's do a straw vote then. How many board members are in support of the design in regards as it relates to the potential modification in the setback? How many was that? Let's put the hands back up.
Modification. Yeah.
Yes.
Was that a hand raise? Yes. So we've got 5.
Everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can't vote.
Yes. So everybody's in favor of the design as it relates to the...
We support the modification.
Modification. Okay. So...
And as a reminder to the board, you're not making compatibility findings, but you are running through them so that the staff hearing officer has them.
Okay. Howard, you
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair and board members, if you could flip to an elevation that shows the chimneys, just so that we're clear on what we're talking about. That's perfect right there. So on the left, there, that one. That is the chimney, the increase in height in the setback that requires the modification. So just keep that in mind when you're making your comments as you send it to the staff hearing officer.
Yep. Okay. It sounded like somebody was in the middle of or getting started.
Well, I was going to support this project as designed, well, with the comments that we've made going to the SHO.
Okay. You want to start? You want to craft a motion out of that and say continue indefinitely to?
Motion.
You gotta read that stuff.
Now, would this be continued to the staff hearing officer, or just continued indefinitely with the following comments?
It depends what the board is intending. If you want to send it to the staff hearing officer, it would be an indefinite continuance to the staff hearing officer.
That would be, I think we should do that. Mm-hmm. So indefinite continuance to the staff hearing officer. The board is generally pleased with the project, with the following comments.
Supportive.
you want to be specific about the support of the modification of the chimney and the corner of the
Okay.
building in the setback.
So supports the modification to the staff hearing officer, specifically the encroachment of the corner of the building existing with the enhanced chimney. And I believe that constitutes what it is. Okay.
Roof overhang.
And the roof overhang. And the roof overhang. So then the comments, we'll go kind of open. Applicant to provide I don't know if wiggle room is an appropriate term for comments, but between tandem parking space and trash enclosure.
Additional room?
Additional room, thank you. That's more dignified. And to provide a landing and steps from the parking level down to the walkway to the rear entrance. To provide an additional tree in the triangular planter between the new parking space and the new accessible parking space. To make the enclosing walls of the trash enclosure and condensing units stucco to match the building. To remove this remnant of the old planter wall and to provide another wall of which is more compatible with the building. To relocate the proposed street tree and to add another street tree in location in the front yard where they would be in the event that the Public Works Department decides to improve this with a sidewalk. So this would be a relocation and an addition
Mr.
of...
Witosh, I think it should be left up to the applicant to deal with the city arborist on that because the spacing of those two street trees may be too close.
Defer to your language.
Thank you.
About okay, so to consult the city arborist.
But
the idea is that as the maker of the motion, I would not require that you put in the sidewalk, but I would require that you anticipate that a sidewalk will be put in and to design your landscape and your front yard accordingly. I would also, this may be, I may be alone on this, but I would ask that you provide, build in the windows on the windows on the surround on the west side and to provide window frames, protruding window frames on the east side. And something either to the equivalent around the entrance on the north and the doors to the south. Your choice. Other than that, I think it's perfect.
Okay.
And we also need the project compatibility analysis.
Okay. So
That's in a preliminary way.
this is not making the analysis. This is just saying that we have considered this and we find it to be moving in this direction of okay. So it complies with the city charter and municipal code, and with the ABR guidelines for that area. It's compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood as proposed. It is an appropriate size, mass, bulk, scale, and height because it really does not change the existing building much. Sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources because there are none. It does not obstruct public views of the mountain or ocean or mountains, and has an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping in the front and in the back. So this carry forward the ABR comments to the SHO. And we would like you to do that. So is that it?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first.
Second.
Leon, second. Is there any discussion?
Further discussion? Number one, I think you should add that the finish grade around the street tree should be established at a elevation appropriate if a future sidewalk gets in. Number two, I will not be supporting the, I'm on.
Your microphone is just down. It's not attached to you.
Low tech. I will not be supporting because I don't feel that they have enough room to do stucco walls around those surrounds. I think that the wood surrounds are because of dimensional issues. I support the idea of the additional width to the tandem parking, but I don't agree with the stair because those two tandem spaces back there are for doctors only, and they'll be coming early or later, so they don't need to go directly down that area. And I think by the time you get a stair, your handrail extensions and so forth, you're eating up precious space for your good spaces, your courtyard. That's my comments.
Any other discussion? No? Does the maker of the motion want to include any of those?
Well, I disagree about the fence material because I think it looks tacky.
I think he was talking about the window.
But you were talking about this material here.
Oh, you're talking about
because you think that the change from wood to stucco, which is about 2 inches, would in fact crowd the trash and crowd the HVAC. I don't agree with that. I think that's ridiculous. It's not 2 inches around. It doesn't change that much.
Would love a read on that.
Yeah, get
right
it.
now it's hard to tell which way to.
Straw vote.
Well, we're about to vote on the motion, and then the motion includes plaster walls.
Yes, it does. So there's one dissension.
I think I agree with Richard on that. I think a sturdy, quality wood construction would be compatible with the building. I don't think that means, a dog-eared 1x6 board fence is appropriate, but something more solid and more traditional that works with the what we can presume to be the Spanish colonial era of the building would be appropriate, and the expense of CMU or framed stucco walls could be avoided. So I would agree. I wouldn't support the motion with that requirement.
And what was the other one?
Steps.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I think the steps. That's a kind of a hazardous condition there.
But I think the steps are necessary to avoid that hazardous condition, regardless of who's using it. I wouldn't want my dentist to call me the morning of an appointment saying I just broke my leg.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion.
You haven't asked if it's all right with the second.
Is it okay with the?
It is not.
Well, we haven't changed the motion yet at all.
I thought that's what we're discussing.
The maker of the motion hasn't.
So I made a motion, and the motion was to add the steps and to have these enclosures be stucco to match this enclosure up in front, and that I do agree that ticky-tacky it should be substantial, but I think if it's going to be substantial, it should really have the same finish and texture as the main building. Anyway, those are I feel pretty strongly about that. I don't.
So the motion hasn't changed.
So
all right.
The seconder could withdraw the second.
Or
he
not?
supported the motion based on the plaster walls, so
Well, okay.
he can certainly withdraw if you'd like, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
sound
can
like-
also vote against the motion,
So
which
call,
is what I'll do.
call for the question.
Okay, so you supported the original motion with plaster walls, and now you're not.
I seconded the motion.
Correct. And the motion stays as is. We're not.
Right. I seconded the motion. I don't think that means I support it. That means we get to discuss the motion.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, then I guess we need to either
Call for the vote.
To call for a vote.
we have to
Mr.
vote.
Chair.
Then. All right. So, all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion goes.
Motion fails.
Yes.
Okay. Then
I'm not making any more motions.
Okay, I will make a substitute motion with the,
Can I read the previous motion just
Certainly.
so that we have it? Okay. An indefinite continuance back to the staff or to the staff hearing officer that the board is generally pleased with the design of the project, that the board supports the modification for the chimney encroachment, the enhanced chimney and roof overhang encroachment. The applicant should provide space between parking spaces and trash, as well as a landing and steps to the parking from the patio. That a additional tree be planted in the triangle planter adjacent to the ADA space. That the walls of the trash enclosure and condenser be stucco. That the applicant remove old planter wall in the adjacent to the right-of-way and within the right-of-way, and that a new wall be constructed that is compatible. That was, yeah. And then the applicant shall consult with the city arborist on where to plant future or street trees to account for future sidewalk improvements. And then we had the project compatibility analysis that.
okay, substitute motion, all of the above, with the exception of the walls surrounding the utility equipment, which may be constructed of substantial wood material. And please include what Mr. Six said regarding the grade around the future street tree.
Could we add that to the consult with
Yes.
arborist about
No,
location and
the
elevation?
grade of the tree needs to be at a location that would not conflict with future sidewalk installation.
Okay. And I did miss one as well. I had ran out of space. Protruding include protruding window frames on east and west elevation and door protrusions as well. Framing, I believe that was one of.
Protruding on the east and recessed on the west.
Got it.
I would include that in the motion, provided it's going to be successful.
Well,
okay.
And that's it.
I'd go along the wood fence, provided it's going to be successful.
Are you going to?
Well, again, it needs to be of substantial construction.
So why don't we say 2x boards?
So, are you going to second that motion, Howard?
Well, if he agrees to 2x boards, I'm not going to put 1x boards in
No,
there.
it can't be 1x, and it should be 2x. It should have a cap. It should have, detailed framing. It should simply not be, 2x4 framing and 1x6 boards. I hope that gets the point across.
I think we understand.
Yeah, we'll see it when you come back with, your details.
It's okay with me.
Well, are you going to second the motion?
Somebody should.
Somebody can second. I probably shouldn't be the
I'll
one.
second it.
All right.
He seconds everything.
You sure? Okay.
I'm sure.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I'm going to be clear about what the motion says about the sidewalk in front. So could you read that again, Matthew? Because
The only part of the Sorry. The only part of the motion that refers to the sidewalk is the comment about the tree, that the applicant consult with the city arborist about the location and elevation of where to plant street trees to account for future sidewalk improvements.
Okay, we should clarify that the landscape should be designed to accommodate future sidewalk installation.
And that includes the location of the tree.
And I would go further to say the board strongly feels the sidewalk should be installed.
Yep.
That's okay with the second.
As part of the project.
Okay, so both of those are okay with the seconder of the motion.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Right. Do we need to reread the compatibility analysis?
I believe are you echoing the same
Yes, I am.
comments
Thank you.
as Howard? Yeah, that should be sufficient.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I'm not going to support the wood fence. It's not just the substantial nature of the wood fence. I think aesthetically and for functional reasons, trash enclosure needs to be a substantial wall with stucco, and I think noise generating equipment should be in a masonry wall enclosure and stucco. Makes it look like the building. The projection in the front is a stucco wall, and there may be other stucco walls around here as well. And for me, the wood thing is an add-on. It's simply it's tacked on. It's not tacky, but it's tacked on. So I'm thinking in terms of the overall appearance of the project. I think a simplicity of materials is better in the long run. So I will probably oppose. I will not vote in favor of this motion.
I don't disagree with you regarding the aesthetics, but I will say that Caltrans accepts a 2x thickness wood wall for sound deadening along freeways. So I don't think that should be an issue. And that this trash enclosure is not a dumpster enclosure. Is that correct? The equipment that's within the trash enclosure is not the type that's going to damage the structure because it'll be handled manually and moved out to where the trash can be picked up in the driveway. So, still.
Yes, appreciate that. I still think that when you start up here and you start to experience this building as a progression of small stucco structures to a large one with an appendage, it is the overall.
I agree that would be preferable. However, I wouldn't make that a condition on this project.
Okay. All right, let's go
So what
to
is the condition? The condition is it's going to be a wood fence.
A wood fence is allowable. I'm not saying it has to be stucco or it has to be wood. I'm just saying that the applicant is allowed by this motion to design a substantial wooden enclosure for both the trash equipment and the condenser. If the applicant chooses to come back with a stucco enclosure, I'll be very happy with that.
So
that kind of leaves them wondering, though, what we prefer. So the motion is for wood enclosures.
That's correct.
So that's going to be the guiding motion.
I think we're comfortable with that. Either way, whatever we ultimately choose, we understand the quality of construction and what would be appropriate. So I think
okay,
that's
great.
Is sufficient.
It's the entry. The owner has to have some ideas that he wouldn't want something tacky there. If I'm the owner, that would be something I'd be very concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've had our discussion. Is there any other points that we need to discuss besides the enclosures? No? Okay, let's go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
because of the wood fence.
2 opposed. So motion carries. Thank you.
If we weren't held to the feet to the fire by these motions, I would be more flexible.
So let's stop.
Yeah.
We're going to stop.
We go to a lot of trouble to take a position.
Howard,
what?
We need to close the meeting. Okay.
Close the meeting?
So with that, we're going to close our July 29th meeting of ABR. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill,